I am here. You are there. And CatSoup is a surreal wild ride originally requested for me to take a look at by number 129. Thank you so much. Now, to really go in on this, I think I'm going to have to go against my better judgment and spoil most of the art. To defend myself, as this is completely against my MO, I really want to tear this piece of art completely apart and sink my teeth in, and I don't think with just half an hour worth of content it would be possible without ruining anything. So please, 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 if you love surreal, adult-themed, dark, artistic movies, stop this video here and go watch CatSoup. It will be the first link in the description, and then come back. With that being said, this was an incredible bit of art to experience, and I am ready to have an... I want to feel art. So once again, I have a bit of a framework with this video. I had a hard time taking apart and digesting this OVA, and I feel for good reason. There are a few review/dissections I would like to reference for my opinion on this piece. The master opinion is going to be coming from Tatsuo Satu in a commentary he did over the animation, where he talks about the inspiration, symbolism, and animation techniques used to make CatSoup. I think the commentary was included with the release of the DVD set. Anyways, he being the director of the video and one of the two masterminds behind it, the other being Masaki Yuasa. You might remember him from... Check out his IMDb, it's absolutely insane. I will be taking his definition of the art as absolute fact and contrasting his word against the word of reviewers. Tatsuo often says certain parts of the work he did not concern himself with, and they are left open to the audience's interpretation. And I am sure that his other half on this project, Masaki, did have an idea of what he wanted each scene to represent. However, I can't find an interview where he is specifically talking about his ideas or thought process on this project. If I find one in the future, or if you guys show me, I'll be sure to make an update to this video. However, this is where we get to deviate, have some fun, make our own judgments/opinions, and speculate. Before we get started, there are several people who have reviewed this OVA or tried to derive some sort of meaning from it. I found their videos really informative, insightful, and entertaining. Here's a quick shout out for them. Please check them out if you are interested in hearing more opinions about CatSoup.
This sister's soul and this person carrying away what you could consider death. He tries to grab it.
Ghibli Reviews has a bit of a spastic recap of the art, and while I do believe some of the core themes of the video are death, religion, and race, I heavily disagree with his interpretation. However, I do think most interpretations are valid, especially when the only vocal creator I can find commenting on it says it's open for interpretation. He is still posting today. Media Hunter Reviews. Whom I had watched after a break, and only about halfway through my obsessive viewing experience, he pointed out several things I had not noticed yet, and made several educated observations with well-placed visual examples, and probably one of my favorite video reviews I've seen so far. If it weren't for the skits taking up more than half of the 22-minute runtime, it'd probably be a perfect video for me. I say that, but dear God, I long for this era of YouTube. He is still posting today. Sugar's Anime. Though the intro actually hurt my soul, well, I think this video is pretty juicy because it is complete theory, backed with a pretty impressive knowledge of the works that inspired the project. And while I believe she dropped the ball on a few ideas, I think she brings some interesting and new ideas to the table, and a lot to chew on theoretically. She is still posting today.
Hello everyone, it is your favorite kind of punch, Mr. Falcon Punch.
Mr. Falcon Punch! I'm almost convinced he's the only person who found the Tatsuo commentary video and explained the project from that perspective. I also really enjoyed his short, sweet coverage of the topic, and I don't know, I'm a fan now, I guess. He is still posting today. Bob Samurai. A YouTuber whose video was more of a recommendation/synopsis of CatSoup. It was a good video with a tiny bit of theory. Still makes videos today. There are a few videos I watched that I didn't mention, as I got the impression they just read the Wikipedia article, which is pretty much the same as what I would expect to find on the back of the VHS if I bought it, or I got the vibe that they watched it once, maybe twice while they were scripting the video and didn't give the OVA the time of day.
But I watched them, damn it. I watched all of them.
I'm sure. We start with our hero for the next 20 minutes, falling into a full tub and struggling to get out. We are then whisked away and introduced to Nyako, the sister of our hero Nyata, the drowning boy, who is sick in bed and being approached by death. Immediately after being given this nugget of exposition, we are now faced with the community's first bit of contention. Here, we see Nyata get out of the tub he was struggling to save himself from and attempt to grab his parents' attention, which they do not reciprocate. He then witnesses Nyako being led away by death and attempts to catch up. After a pretty funny surreal interaction, he is successful and is able to wrestle away a portion of his sister's soul, and being given a hint at where death is going to put the other half. He then runs back home, and in the very next scene we are shown Nyata still in the tub. What? This has led many to believe that Nyata dies in the tub, and that this is what allows him to chase death to return his half of his sister's soul to her. And others think that he survives, and that's why his parents aren't weirded out by him still being present when his sister does come back to life. Every time I take a position on this, I end up flip-flopping. As of right now, I am of the persuasion that he died, because while these cats are shown to be extraordinary, there is a theme of great deities and their reluctance to care for mortals. So I don't see how these two would be considered special or chosen in any way that would allow Nyata to dream himself into being able to pull his sister away from death. With that being said, Tatsuo states twice in his commentary that this is completely up to the viewer's interpretation.
見る人にとっては2人とも死んじゃったんじゃないのかなと思われているかもしれませんが、それはご想像にお任せします。
Which makes me frustrated. I want answers, man! But it means both views are valid, and I think this can be rationalized either way. Let it be known, however, that I will continue interpreting from here on out with the assumption that both siblings are dead, one with their soul intact and searching for the other half of the soul the other has lost, which is totally Nyata's fault, by the way. One thing I truly love about this OVA is that as many times as I've watched it, I always end up learning something new by watching a review or force-feeding it down someone else's throat. For instance, I had a buddy of mine watch, and easily one of the most disturbing scenes to him was this one.
Yes. She is...
One that I thought was totally innocuous, until he showed me that the lady wasn't just bending over to pick something up, she was actually taking a shit in the street. I had no clue. How did I miss that? I don't know, but I really enjoy in an age where every blinding flashing detail is thrust down your throat as a viewer that I can watch CatSoup 6 times, show it to a friend, and they show me new things about it, even if it's just a lady indecently exposing herself to children.
I don't even know what to say, dude. I need it quite. Oh god, what is going on here? Oh, DJ, what do you make me watch here, dude? DJ...
In the next scene, our hero throws
The Japanese rhinoceros beetle. Japanese rhinoceros beetle is Tripoxylus dichotomus. The Japanese rhinoceros beetle's
head into a pond and begins to lead his now brain-dead sister into a circus. A few reviewers make a connection with a lot of imagery in the film to religious imagery, and while there is for a fact a lot of religious iconography here, I wanted to touch on Tatsuo's statement of water being a motif.
この作品のモチーフは主に水というものを使っています。水に対してどのように湯浅君と僕で発想してイメージを広げていこうかというところ。
I think the whale just so happens to be the biggest spectacle when using water as a theme, and that is the reason it is here, not because it is trying to connect the Jonah and the whale proverb. Not a huge glaring criticism, just one that I wanted to share because I'm sure it'll come up in future conversation. Our cats sit down for the act, and an old man comes out to a fanfare and saws a lady into 11 parts, levitates them, and has them fly around the arena in a morbid show of power as she giggles, and slaps her back together like a used car salesman. This is where Tatsuo dropped a bit of an expected bombshell on us in the commentary as well. I feel if you've watched the OVA, studied it at all, you would come to the conclusion that not everything adds up here. This film is so out there, XD random, these people must be on drugs, lol. Tatsuo explains that this film wasn't meant to strongly drive a narrative or have profound meaning. It is, quote, in a sense, this film is just a collage of images. This means to me that while there is a plot and story here, it is more of a bunch of animations that loosely fit together to make a really fun to watch and interesting adventure. And I love that. It takes a lot of pressure off me, no one is technically wrong, and I get to enjoy surreal visuals with dark iconography. That's what I'm all about, dude. The circus scene finished up with the old man, who I'm not referring to as God incarnate because Tatsuo said they did not intend for him to be interpreted that way, begins creating objects with his voice, which I will concede probably contains some religious symbolism. Are you happy, Sugar's Anime? I said it. And then rolls out the main event. And listen close, guys and gals, because this one's a bit of a doozy. A giant chicken balloon filled with the sky that, as they tighten the restraint around its leg, fills with storm clouds, which rain, filling it with water, and then it explodes, flooding the earth. Yes, on to the next scene. Our characters, along with the new one, rides into frame on a boat. That is not a reference to Noah's Ark. I have proof right there.
水がモチーフと言いましたが、まあこれもまた水で、別にノアの箱舟ではないんですけれども。
I'm right and everyone else is wrong. I really love the way this scene looks. Something I've always thought was really interesting as a camera gear nerd is how animators will try to emulate certain lenses. This scene, for instance, being a fisheye lens, while back in the sister's deathbed scene, they emulated a wide-angle lens. I think it adds a lot of character to a scene, and it's just kind of cool that animators put thought into things like that. For that bit of exposition, however, our hero takes care of some business, and we see a deceased woman that most other reviewers thought was a fish. How do you confuse this with a fish?
And then once that was done, the get picked up by a bird, and when this bird eats the said,
and fish come up and eat it all, then a bird swoops down and takes one of those and feeds it to her hatchling,
carrying the two kittens floating in the water. The shot pans out as she floats off a waterfall, where she is probably picked up by a crane and is then fed to the crane's chicks, who then proceed to take care of their business over the edge of the nest, providing fertilizer for a plant to grow. And from its fruits, the kittens are birthed? After which promptly fades out, and we are shown that this was just Nyata daydreaming.
今のは唯一猫汁草の海藻シーンですね。あれが割と普通にわかる海藻なのではないかと。
What? What? I was supposed to know exactly what that meant? He has to be being facetious here. Am I the idiot? Is this an obvious metaphor for the circle of life? I'm willing to be the idiot, but I truly do not understand what I was supposed to understand there. And then our pig friend brings us the fish that we're feeding on Nyata's business, insinuating he would like to eat and we should prepare this. And Nyata retaliates by tackling to the ground, unzipping his waist, and pulling his loins out and fries them, feeding Nyata, and the pig. And then a fish jumps out of the bowl, scuttles across the deck where the samurai take turns chopping it into perfect segments for their nigiri dinner. At least I think it's nigiri dinner. I'm not a raw fish kind of guy, I know. Sue me. All the while, it is able to escape with just its head and tail fin intact to follow the boat, or ball of goop, and admire it in its celestial beauty. And then we have a flashback of Nyata eating an eerily similar fish's eye at the beach with the rest of the family. I say similar because it seems that the whole samurai celestial thing was maybe the fish's experience between life and death, and this couldn't have happened linearly, and we were told that the only flashback was the one with the naked pregnant leg being eaten by pterosaurs. I'm not sure if you guys can tell, but this 1 minute of the show has a lot to take in. I loved it. The ADHD in me was absolutely enthralled watching the sequence for the first few times, but trying to explain or encapsulate it is really tiring, and truly the only way I think for anyone to know is just watch it. I'm honestly wasting my time trying to explain what happened here. Okay, I've calmed down. Have you? Good. Now that we're back to reality, we can talk about the next scene. Pretty much, God picks up the earth, wiping away the flood, and creating a barren desert wasteland. Our heroes, now without an effective mode of transportation, are riding in the empty pouches of the pig, and beat him with a stick until those Looney Tune-like bumps come out of his head. Not fucking cool, dude. Nyata tries to eat them, gets sick, and beats the pig some more. And before he dies of dehydration and beating, he takes Nyata's arm as recompense. Oh my god, I'm getting tired. They travel for a bit further to reach a seamstress to reattach Nyata's arm, and she has several Frankensteinian babies that she has created that don't seem to be functioning properly, so her little kittens get the heck on out of there. And as the proverb out of the frying pan and into the fire goes, our cats arrive at another godless heathen's, spoilers, house. And this is pretty much the sexual deviant version of the Hansel and Gretel story. He stares at them like a pedo in a Chuck E. Cheese while he fattens them up, and once he is happy, this happens. Our heroes are not to be outdone, however. Nyata quickly turns the tide on him, and after pulling off his scalp to reveal him being a robot, chops off his arms and legs, ultimately trapping him in the pot. Truly a sick fucking bastard. Fun fact though, that sequence, excluding the credits, is for the most part the only one drawn without Masaki Yasuo's complete supervision, which I think is pretty cool. Having escaped from the sexual predator / carnivorous automaton, they find themselves wandering through the desert, and they stumble on a glass plant of some kind, and after pulling it, digging up its roots, they are surprised with probably the only good thing to happen so far. Can you guess what it is? I bet you can, go ahead. Nope, that's not it. 2 more guesses. Holy crap, you got it. You're totally right. A giant elephant completely formed out of freestanding water. I did really like this part. It's already a pretty surreal show, and it's nice to have a reason for them surviving in this inhospitable wasteland that isn't left up to the imagination or never explained. Unfortunately, however, after playing and traveling inside the water elephant, he is, bizarrely enough, restrained by the laws of physics. It is not able to survive this extreme heat above ground unless they can dig up more water for him to sustain himself with. And eventually they're not able to find enough in time, and he evaporates. Afterwards, we are shown an ocean with the Elder Scrolls and Netch-looking creatures walking above it, and we hard cut to God cutting the earth in half on a dinner plate. This is where things get weirder. The half of the earth that God did not have his greedy little fork plunge into, damn you, God, slips off the table and rolls away, flies off the platform God exists on, and into the gears of time that I guess in this universe God operates, completely halting time, freezing the now present oceans and everything else. In the commentary, Tatsuo references the sound design and visual representations a lot. However, in this scene, I think it comes together the most here. The music sounds like I am stuck in a silent but eerie void, knowing there is no danger, but still worried I might not get out. And similarly, Nyata is running around the frozen earth, sort of sightseeing a lot of horrible and depressing atrocities, like what I assume are explosions and a girl jumping in front of a train. God soon throws the gears of time forward, speeding up time, and the following sequence gave me flashbacks to the earth-shattering experience that was Don't Hook Me, I'm Scared's Time episode. God, unable to snatch his meal riding in between the gears of time, reverses it to grab another chance, and we are shown more atrocities of man's being undone. Cars becoming uncrashed, hostages being unexecuted, and people unflinging themselves from buildings. God, successfully not letting his meal slip through his fingers, then begins to slurp up the magma of Earth. I really like the idea of God actually existing and he just being an operator of time, only keeping the earth around as a continuous meal he can just rewind time and bring back. The life on it being something he does not consider or care about at all. What an interesting, bleak, and still really fascinating take on spiritualism. Getting back into the story, the next scene, they wake up back in the boat? What? Am I seriously to believe that that was all a fucking dream? I have been through so much. The Frankenstein lady, the Predator robot mouse, our water elephant, the Netches. After a few viewings, I'm pretty sure we are back here because of all the time stuff that happened. It was just really jarring for me to be on this long journey and then we end up laying down in the boat like all of that was just a dream. It felt a little cheesy. The time sequence and explanation, though, makes it a little less cheap. Upon waking up, we float into this half-sunken, overgrown tin forest where assumably the tin butterflies we have been seeing speckle throughout the showing originate as we begin to see more of them. As our characters take in the sights, we are shown a giant machine worker stacking blocks of water, and as we pass, he shows us he too has a heart. I am sure this is symbolic of something like, through repetitive and meaningless work, like building an ocean, this once living being has become seemingly robotic and hollow, despite still holding on to what made it alive. I don't know, Tatsuo doesn't say anything about it. Immediately following, we see some guys upside down turning a giant axle with cranks and one falls off. This scene resonated with me in a weird way. It still doesn't slow down when the individual falls, but the other two who have to continue turning it must have to work harder to keep it going. If you have had a seemingly menial and monotonous job where no matter how hard you work, there will just be as much, if not more, waiting for the exact same process to be done again and again the next day over and over. And I think that small few second scene might create some meaning for itself in your head as well. But here I am creating meaning in a work of art that the artists are probably just trying to make a cool visual out of. Our hero's boat slowly drifts toward an orange flower that the representative of death had previously alluded to us. After picking it up, Nyako awakes, her soul now whole again, and our journey complete. After returning home from another day out buying food, we see our now whole again cat family enjoying dinner together, and they all get shut off like a television, one by one by one by one, and cut to static. The ending credits has a really cool effect with the music box. What the hell was that ending? I don't think the ending has any significance, honestly. Several times, including the end of the commentary, CatSoup is referred to as being completely unlinear, and its purpose is to not tell a story but show a collage of animations the team had made in respect and admiration of the original series named There is no other word I can think to describe CatSoup other than surreal. From start to end, this project put 100% of its effort into being something incredible to watch and look at, and I really enjoyed it. While it defies most other explanations, and while reviewers will try to derive some meaning from it, I think viewing it from the lens of a spectacle, something to be admired and perhaps not entirely understood, is the ideal way to experience the OVA. But who knows, maybe Masaki Yasuo will come forward with a commentary 19 years later with his insight. Or maybe he already has and I just can't fucking find it. CatSoup was right up my alley. Was it up yours? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Before we segue into YouTube Corner, I'd like you to have a good one. Bye-bye!
2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX, God.
Today, on YouTube Corner, I would like to talk about Defunct Land. Defunct Land is a pretty cool YouTuber I've been watching a lot recently. He covers theme parks and amusement rides and pretty much everything in between, like the history of how they came to be, how they came to fall, the successful and not so successful projects that they have had. A lot of focus on Disney, I think for obvious reasons. Because they are the biggest and the arguably best at what they do. And I feel you guys should really check them out. That was YouTube Corner. See ya.
This is it. It is neither good or bad or mixed. It is it.